Hey everyone, this is my new minivan that I'm in. If you saw my videos before, I was in a Volkswagen Rabbit. I sold that and bought this. More on that later, but for now I wanted to do sort of a tutorial on how to make blackout curtains, or at least how I like to make them. As you can see, right now they're all put away. There's 4 curtains, and they don't really block my view much when I'm driving. You can see I've got them stored so that they don't really obscure the windows. Now let me show you what they look like when they are deployed. Alright, so when they're set up, it's quite a bit darker in here. You can see the back one covers the back. This one covers that whole side. This one covers that whole side. If I climb back here, I can close that quickly. Light here, here. So that's looking toward the front there. As you can tell, you really can't see out any of these windows. Take a look from the outside. So the real test would be at night when it's dark out with lights on inside. But I do have those 2 dome lights on in there. Anyway, it covers it pretty well. And here's my view of the curtains from the back. So for this tutorial, I won't go into any specifics about materials or dimensions or how to cut things step by step or anything like that. I really just want to give you the concept of how to think about putting up curtains, and then what the rules not the rules you would follow, but the guidelines for how you can reproduce it in your own car. So as you can tell here, each curtain has its own string that it slides on, and when I did this in my Rabbit, it was pretty easy because there was a lot of the metal frame underneath exposed, and there were tons of holes in it in different places to tie strings. But it was I had to get a little more creative with the minivan. So really, I would say what you want to look for is just anything that goes along the length of the window that you can attach to. So this is just one of these typical coat hanger things. I unscrewed it, and there was the screw part, but then there was another little peg that went in, and I tied the string around that peg and ran it up to the front. And in the front, I sort of did a similar thing here where I took that off and looped it around the screw that's holding it in. So I had to get a little more creative right here because obviously this doesn't extend past the end of the window. So if it was just to hang down, it wouldn't cover it satisfactorily. But this is easy to fix because you can just have a part that goes past there and covers it up like that. Anyway, so the point is, look for anything you can attach to, and it was pretty straightforward when I had these things. The back one, I'm not really sure what these are supposed to be. It's like just kind of a thing. I had to figure out a way to thread that string through there. I used like a curved paper clip. You have to just get creative and see anything that you can possibly hook up to, find a way to do it. How does this go back on? Yeah, whatever, do it later. The one up front was actually the trickiest because I wanted something that was going like right behind the seats like this one is, but there was nothing good to attach to, so I went in here. I actually tied this string to the end of like a drywall anchor thing and just kind of stuffed the whole anchor in there, and it's anchoring my string. And then on this side, I was going to do something similar, but I didn't have another drywall anchor, so I actually just tied it right onto to this line that was already going from front to back. So once you figured out where you can put your lines, it's time to make some measurements of just how long the window is. So from that end all the way up to the front. For me, I think it was about 6 feet or so. So I knew I would need 2 yards of fabric, and the fabric I got was a yard of fabric was 57 inches wide, which I knew I could cut in half and it would still be wide enough to cover a window. So basically 2 yards covered this side and this side. once I cut it in half lengthwise. So just do that for all of your windows and figure out how much fabric you need first of all. And then once you know how much you need, go to I went to a fabric store in Portland, Fabric Depot, and went to their clearance section, and I just started looking at the close to, I mean, it doesn't have to be absolute black. It can be dark gray or any kind of dark color, I think. It depends on your tint, how stealthy you want it to be. But I found this stuff, I often test it just by holding it up to the light. As you can see, not much shines through. I was just, I look like an idiot putting my face up to a bunch of fabrics in the store, but this one was relatively lightweight. I think it was like some kind of suit material or something. It was kind of, I think I paid $6 a yard, so yeah, I don't know. It was maybe $40 or so to get all the fabric I needed. So once you have all your fabric bought, you can cut it to, so you could, for example, cut a 6-foot length for that window. And the way I did it required a bit of hand sewing. You could probably find another way, or you could use a sewing machine. If you've never sewed before, don't let this be off-putting to you. It's really easy actually to do a basic stitch like this. Just look up, I'd say just Google some basic how to sew directions, and you just started at one point and I just did a loose stitch here. It doesn't have to be anything real strong or tight or anything like that. So I just went all the way across, and all I did there, let me show you on another piece here. Just take the end of the fabric, fold it over like this, and then stitch along here. It's really that easy. It's just to make a tunnel that the string can travel through, obviously. So for example, I had on this right side curtain, once I had a 6-foot by 2-foot or 2.5 foot rectangle with the tunnel sewed in the top there, and I put my string through it, and then I just put the string on a safety pin and then pushed it through, and attached the string and tightened up the string. And then I had a rectangle here, which wasn't really, it kind of looked like this. It just wasn't really custom fitted to the shape I needed. And so to do that, really, you kind of just have to play with it and, again, get a little bit creative. But I just kind of go through a process of thinking about, okay, where would I want this? How would I want it to block off the light? So on the Rabbit, I used magnets, but since I don't have so much available metal in this car, I used Velcro, which I stitched into the fabric curtains and had to super glue onto the car because they were peeling off. But basically, all you have to do to finish it is kind of think about, okay, I want this to be here, and then remember that point, stitch a Velcro thing on, and it stays there. And I've got one here that goes on to the Velcro point there. And I've got one here that goes here. And one more in the front. This one's actually on the door handle, which is kind of silly, but it was the best place for it. Yeah, and so now I've got a pretty solid little blackout curtain. The only shortcoming of this, I mean, it was pretty silly. I should have made it just a foot longer just to make sure I had it long enough. It doesn't, you can see there's a little bit of a gap here, which isn't ideal. I guess I'm not happy it turned out that way, although it wouldn't be too hard to fix just by stitching on a little bit more fabric if I wanted to. But I realized it wasn't entirely a bad thing because this window is right here, and by having this curtain the way it is, I can still reach, open and close that window and get a bit of airflow right through there. So that was kind of worked out well. Serendipity, if I liked to use that word. So from here, this is a functional curtain, but there's more I could do to tidy it up. I'm still kind of in the process of getting this van built out, obviously. But for example, I could trim this up at the bottom so that it allows me to use these features more easily, but still just get it the right length, like cut it right here so it'll still block the light, but not block my cup holder. Yep, so that's my favorite way to do curtains. And I'm really a fan of this setup because they're really easy and fast to deploy and take down. They just stay hanging up on the side of the car, so it doesn't take up any additional space in your storage. They're lightweight, they're not bulky, they don't get in your way. Plus, they do a really good job of effectively blocking out all the light, and it's not so much that I need it to be really dark in here, but it's just nice knowing that nobody can see in. So, yep, that's it. Hope you got something out of that. Thanks.